Kim. Thanks
Hi.
for coming back in today.
Thank you.
How are the roads? The weather's been...
They're slippery. It's
Yeah.
pretty greasy out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad you made it in. So
Me
thank
too.
you.
Me too.
I know it's been a little while since we've talked, but the last time we met, I gave you a consent, and I'm going to just remind you that with our confidentiality that anything we talk about in here is between me and you. It's all confidential. The only time that I do have to warn somebody and talk to somebody is to make sure that you're safe if you're thinking of hurting yourself or somebody else.
Not at all.
Okay,
I'm fine.
great. Well, again, thanks for coming in. Last time we met, we were talking a lot about being here in the United States and traveling to Canada. A lot going on, obviously, with Mom.
Right.
And also kind of talked about a little bit about the relationship with you and your dad, and going across borders and all of the COVID. So what's going on? What's been happening, and where are you at today?
Well, I was able to cross in the summer, but unfortunately, I couldn't get back up at Christmas time because the border is still closed. In the summer, I was able to go on what they call a compassionate visit, because my mom was ill, and so I haven't been up since August. So the only contact I really have with my dad is on the phone now, whereas I used to go up and see him at Christmas and things like that. So, you know, it's been a long time, and it's hard when it's just on the phone and you miss holidays and things.
Yeah, absolutely, and I know how close you and Dad are.
Yeah.
So, okay, so tell me a little bit about that then. So you're calling and talking to him.
Yeah, I usually call every Saturday. Once in a while, maybe in between through the week, we'll talk. Not that often. It's usually on the weekends. And we're close and have a fairly good relationship, but my dad remarried when I was 8. I've never gotten along very well with her. I've tried. And so just basically my whole life it's been difficult, and it seems like in time it should get better, and it actually seems to be getting worse.
Okay. Between you and his wife?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that relationship.
Well, when she met my dad, I was 8, and she was never a very warm and fuzzy person, but she wasn't also mean either. I just always felt like she tolerated me because she had to, because I was there. I never felt like I was very much wanted or to be there on her part. And my dad overcompensated because of how she treated me. So he went above the board. Like I'd be 8 years old and go over for a visit. When it was time to leave, he'd hand me a 20. Okay. You know, when $1 would have been a lot to an 8-year-old.
Right, okay.
But, and I know he was trying to overcompensate for her. And then as I got older, you know, you're a teenager, you have your own friends, and then you're older and you make your own life. But as she got older, she seemed to have some health issues, and she went through a problem with drinking, antidepressants, then kind of went off everything. And now she just seems to be in a very negative state all the time. So when I do call there or go to visit, it's extremely uncomfortable, her attitude. And no matter how pleasant I try to be or how much I try not to let things bother me, I usually leave there upset.
Okay. All right. So you're noticing that her emotions and her personality, let's say, or that negative energy is kind of coming out towards you and affecting your emotions and the way you feel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. If I say it's sunny, she says it's cloudy. If I say up, she says down. When I try to just let it roll off my back, because I try to tell myself I'm here to visit my dad and have a good visit with him, and I'm just going to try and let what you say not bother me. And it's almost like once she sees it's not bothering me, she'll make sure she keeps jabbing until she finally does something that does. And then I usually just leave there upset. So it gets frustrating.
Okay. And tell me more now. So now that you're not in person seeing, like so you make a phone call, you dial the phone, it rings. Kind of give me an example of what happens then.
She always answers, and she'll ask questions, and no matter what I say, it'll be negative. If she asks about a neighbor she knows, you know, like, are they back to work yet from when they broke their ankle? I will say, no, not yet. And then she'll just say, well, they're really milking the system, you know. Or if she asks how another one is, I'll say, good, you know, she went to visit her parents this weekend. Well, she's a COVID spreader for doing that. Like, So she asks me things, and no matter what my answer is, she's ready to attack whatever it is I say. If I say sunny, she says cloudy. So I just learned to expect that and, you know, just try and get through the conversation so she can get my dad on the phone. And then by the time I get off the phone, I'm like upset.
Right, okay. So it sounds like you're not liking these feelings.
Right.
You do go to call your dad.
Right.
You're trying to stay close to dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have this, you're so close.
Right.
And it sounds like maybe this is a struggle now to stay close to dad because that negative energy and negative feeling.
Right.
is
Yeah, I
taking
don't.
over.
I don't call as often, and when I couldn't go up at Christmas time, as much as I missed him, there was just that little twinge of relief because there's always anxiety at the thoughts of going over there because she likes to ruin holidays too. So it was kind of like, well, at least that won't be happening this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Mm-hmm.
there was a little bit of goodness about that, as strange as that sounds.
Okay. So because you used a big word of anxiety, so there's an anxiety for you to get together now.
Oh, yes,
She's gonna be
definitely.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is 100% she is going to be in a mood and say and do things. And so I never go there anymore expecting it to go well with her. I go there expecting it to not go well and to try and not let that disappoint me or affect me.
Okay. And I can tell just by when I ask, okay, what's going on with this week and where are you,
Mm-hmm.
that this is the major issue at the forefront of like your thoughts and your feelings and what your stress is.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you're saying that you don't want it to bother you,
It does.
it does a
It-
lot. I can hear it.
It really does. And I wish I could figure out how to not let it bother me so much.
Okay.
You know?
So why don't we make that one of our goals then, as far as if you don't want it, because we can't control her,
Mhm.
right? We've talked about controlling other people before in past
Right.
sessions. And since we can't control her, maybe we work on some goals as far as helping you and how you respond to her and how you guys relate to each other. What can you do in these situations then, so you don't get that anxiety or that feeling of dread?
I guess, yeah, I really need to go in with the idea of I can only control how I react to it, not what she does, and just keep reminding myself that. So,
Yeah, and I know that's easier said than done
Mhm.
sometimes, right? So
Right.
it might take some practice on our part.
right.
How would you feel if we talked a little bit about self-talk? I don't know that we covered that topic before. And I'll give you a little bit of a homework assignment for you to practice on
Sure.
self-talk, okay? So have you heard the terminology before? Like,
No, is it just repeating things to myself to make it better?
a little bit, like when we all kind of, as human beings, go through certain things we say to ourselves. You know, like if you spill your coffee first thing in the morning, it's very easy to say, this is going to be a terrible day.
Right.
Or you try to talk yourself through something like, I got this, I know I can do it. You know, there's positive self-talk.
Right.
And then there's also can be some negative self-talk or things that we can keep ourselves anxious or keep ourselves stressed out. So we all get into the habit of what we tell ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Okay,
Right.
so that's kind of the self-talk. We don't always pay attention to it, and we're not always aware that we can kind of be our biggest cheerleaders or our worst enemies,
Right.
right? So something I want you to think about is what are you thinking and what are you saying to yourself when you go to call dad? Seeing as how now the phone call is the way to stay in contact with dad.
Right.
So what are some things you say to yourself when you are calling up to your dad and you say she always answers?
Right. Usually I'm saying, oh no, what's she going to say or do this time? How bad's it going to be this time? So it's a sense of dread to get through her to get to my dad.
Okay. So we kind of start going through how awful it's going to be. Or
Yes.
what, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What I want you to do until our next meeting next week, because we're coming close to the end of our session, is I want you to kind of list, I don't know if you could come up with 3 different situations in life that create that same anxiety, that same gut feeling of dread.
Okay.
I know we've talked in the past that you don't like going to doctor's appointments.
Right.
right? So that might be almost that comparable, like
Okay.
pit in your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we look at 2 to 3 situations of where you get that pit.
Okay.
Okay, so you're just gonna kind of journal it. And I want you to split up your paper into 3 sections. In your first column, we're gonna write what those situations are. So 1, calling to dads.
Okay.
Number 2, and you can use other ones, but number 2, I know you had mentioned going to the doctors and the
Right.
anxiety. But try to list 2 or 3 things that give you that pit.
Okay.
The second column, the middle column, I want you to think about what are the things I'm saying to myself during those situations. So what is some of that self-talk that you've gotten into the habit of saying?
Okay.
And then in the third column, and this one is going to be the one that I want you to focus on more. It might take more work. It might take a little bit of time, but we're trying to change that self-talk. Like, what are other things you can say to yourself?
Okay.
You know, sometimes I know I'll say, "Oh, this day can't get any better,"
Right.
you know, or "It can't get any worse." And I notice if I change that last column a little bit, that I can, you know, it's not the worst day ever.
Right.
You know, you can change your mentality, you can change your thoughts a little bit by changing that third column.
Okay.
So I want you to think about what are the different things you can say to yourself in those situations that we can start practicing.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think that's a doable homework assignment between now and next visit?
I do. I
Okay.
can do that.
All right. When's your next phone call up to that?
Saturday morning.
Okay.
So it's usually every Saturday, sometimes through the week, but definitely Saturday morning. So I will definitely work on that before I call and see how it goes.
Okay. And then next week when we come in, I want to talk a little bit about that homework. And I also want to hear what your experiences are with that phone call from Saturday.
Okay.
That'll be a good starting point.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in, Kim, and drive safe.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.